Hello everyone and welcome back into another video. Today we're once again back in Warframe for another build, and this time we're having a look at Nezha Prime. This Warframe still is one of the funniest frames to play if you like seeing the whole map just die in an instant, because that's always fun. And yeah, this build pretty much focuses on that, just nuking the whole room in the shortest amount of time. We're going to use the combo Divine Spears with the Augment and Thermal Thunder, but I think people always forget about one important thing about Nezha's kit, which is his Chakram, because the Chakram amplifies the damage enemies take, so why don't you just use it? It's basically free damage. Anyways, that's enough introductions for now, so let's jump into the build. Alright, first of all, let's have a look at Nezha's passive and his abilities. The passive allows Nezha to slide 60% faster and 35% further. Probably not the greatest passive ever, especially if you don't like his very slidey playstyle, but it does make you really fast, so we are going to allow it. Moving on, his first ability should be Firewalker, by I subsume Thermal Thunder over it, and what Firewalker does is it makes your feet burn with flames and you run around leaving a flaming trail behind you. This flaming trail does have some unique stuff to it, but it's not really that great. It doesn't deal that much damage. It does make you faster though, so there's that at least. The only really good thing it does is that the trail also cleanses statuses from you and your allies, but you have your Warding Halo that pretty much does the same thing. Moving on, we have Nezha's second ability, which is Blazing Chakram. This Chakram can do multiple things. First of all, if you just tap the ability, the Chakram will bounce around and ricochet between enemies and also walls. But if you hold the ability instead, the Chakram will go in a straight line and it will just come back to you afterward. Enemies hit by the Chakram have a higher chance to drop health orbs and also energy orbs, which is great for your energy economy. If you hold the Chakram, it will also deal more damage than just tapping the ability, so it's a thing you should consider. This Chakram also makes enemies take more damage because it debuffs them with damage vulnerabilities, so that's just more damage for you and your allies. And while the Chakram is mid-flight, you can also recast the ability to teleport to the Chakram's location. You can also see the Chakram on the minimap if you're wondering where it is, and believe me, that's gonna happen quite a lot. Then we have Warding Halo. This ability grants you a protective halo that will both grant you 90% damage reduction, and it also prevents any status, which is great because we don't need Prime Footed and we don't need to worry about random toxin procs killing us, which is just awesome. This halo has a damage absorption, which is pretty much an HP on the halo. That means if you take too much damage, the halo will be destroyed, and after being destroyed, you become invulnerable for 2 seconds. This damage absorption scales off your ability strength, but it also gets boosted in the first 3 seconds after casting the ability. That is because all the damage you take in those 3 seconds will pretty much grant you additional damage absorption, so the more damage you take, the more health the halo has, and that means it will last for longer. The halo also has an AoE around it that will deal heat damage to enemies that are standing nearby, and by applying heat to those enemies we crowd control them, and that makes you even harder to kill, especially for melee enemies. And finally we have your fourth ability called Divine Spears. Enemies will stay impaled for a certain duration. They will also take puncture damage the moment they get impaled. You can also recast the ability to deal additional impact damage on that slam, and that will also end the ability. Divine Spear also has a combo with your Blazing Chakram, because if you cast a Blazing Chakram on enemies that are being speared, the Chakram will split in two, so it's usually better to use the hold version of the ability because it will deal more damage. And those were the abilities. Let's now move on to the Archon Shards, and what I recommend using are at least 1 Topforge Crimson Shard with ability strength and 1 Ember Shard with casting speed. In this build we are not going to run Prime Flow, and that's why I am using 2 Topforge Aether Shards with energy maximum. This leaves you with a free slot that you can use for anything. You can go, for example, for an orange shard with the blast damage thing that grants you shields if you need more survivability. You can also go for more power strength, you can go for more casting speed, you can literally do anything you want with this slot. Alright, finally, let's have a look at the actual build. These are the mods we are going to use today for this video. In my aura slot, I am using Corrosive Projection to reduce enemies' armor. In the exo slot, I am running Cannon Drift for more slide, less friction, and also more ability range. And honestly, the only thing I care about is ability range. The actual slide and friction we already have enough from the passive, so I don't think it is that needed. Moving on, we have Augur Reach, Archon Stretch, and Overextended that give us the maximum amount of range of 280, and that makes our abilities have almost 40 meters of range here, and almost 34 meters on Thermal Thunder. I am using Archon Stretch instead of normal Stretch because I will be using my companion that applies electricity through abilities and that will grant us more energy regen. You can just remove Archon Stretch and use normal Stretch if you don't want to use the additional forma. Then we have Archon Vitality for 100% more health and also to make our abilities apply double the amount of heat. Then we have Transient Fortitude for more ability strength at the cost of some duration, Prime Continuity to balance our duration, and then we have a couple of augments. First of all, Thermal Transfer grants us and our allies in range 75% damage bonus for 30 seconds. This elemental damage bonus is both cold and heat we get from our Thermal Thunder, and they will combine into Blast after casting both versions of the ability. And the amount of extra damage bonus you get is boosted by your ability strength, so the more you have, the more damage you get. And with this build, I think we can reach up to 314 more blast damage, which is... it's just a lot. And it does also last for 38 seconds, but while you're standing inside the circle created by Thermal Thunder, the duration will be paused, so yeah, this pretty much lasts forever, and we also have a lot of range, so you can move around quite a lot. And finally, we have Divine Retribution, which is the augment that makes this whole build actually work. What this mod does is it allows Divine Spears to spread status effects between all enemies speared. This augment also makes Slash, Toxin and Heat deal more damage at the end of the ability, or if you recast the ability, and that damage at base is 1.5 times, so that means if you recast ability and enemies have, for example, 40 stacks of heat, they will now take 1.6 in this case more damage from those 40 ticks of heat at once, which will pretty much kill them, and that's very cool. What is not really cool is that this augment also changes your base range of the ability from 90 meters to only 14 meters, and I guess that's the easy way to kind of nerf the ability a little bit, because otherwise it will pretty much hit all the enemies in the map, and that will be kinda broken. Moving on to the Arcanes, I am using Arcane Energize and Molt Augmented. Arcane Energize is pretty much mandatory if you wanna spam your abilities, and Molt Augmented gives you an additional 60% power strength, which means we will be dealing more damage with everything in our kit, so yeah, usually more power strength is just better. Moving on to the weapons, these are the ones I am currently using. You can of course choose the ones you prefer. I just think these ones work really well with this build, and especially with Nezha. So let's move on to the actual builds. These are the Incarnon evolutions for the Warframe, and this is the build I have on the weapon. Then I'm using Fury's Incarnon, and these are the evolutions I am using on this weapon, plus this is the build. I do have a Raven, which is pretty good, but you can replace this one with something else if you don't have one. And this little thing can deal a lot of damage. And finally, this is the melee I am using. It's the Harmony, because this weapon deals more damage depending on statuses, so it's pretty strong in this case because we're gonna spread a lot of statuses on enemies. And this build may not be the best, but it does deal like millions of damage and it kills anything in one shot, so I don't think you really need anything else. But of course, if you have a better build, leave it in the comments so anyone who wants to can use it. Then I'm using Madurai as my focus tree for the usual 50% more casting speed and 40% more power strength after doing a couple of voice links, so yeah, just great overall. As for your companion, you can use whatever you like. I just wanted to use my Hound because he does look kinda funny, and he does also apply a lot of statuses, especially with a build like this one. You can of course change any of the mods you don't like with something else. And the weapon we're going to use is the Arcanes, and the build looks something like this. It's just a bunch of status, and that's pretty much gonna be it. Alright, that was the whole build. Let's now see it in action. Alright, let me break it down for you. What we are going to do is, first of all, we want to spear the enemies, and that will allow us to apply all statuses to all enemies at once, which is great. And after doing that, we want to cast our Chakram, and that will debuff enemies and apply tons and tons of heat stacks. As you can see, there's like 60 stacks, and that applies to all the enemies that are being speared. So that's very strong. The status does only last for a while, so you want to act fast. So once again, we are going to use our Divine Spear. We then want to use our Chakram. Let it do its stuff. We want to cast our Thermal Thunder by holding it first, so it applies heat, and then by just tapping the ability, and that will deal the huge blast explosion that kills pretty much everything. This happens because Thermal Thunder will detonate all the heat stacks that are applied onto enemies and deal a massive blast explosion that, yeah, as you can see, kills pretty much everything for multiple reasons. First of all, R4 is spreading all the statuses enemies take, and that also includes the blast they take when we apply heat and cold together. And additionally, it will deal more damage depending on how many heat stacks are being applied to enemies, and they also take more damage because Blazing Chakram applies damage vulnerability to them. So yeah, it translates to dealing millions and millions of damage, and enemies will just explode in a very big burst of body parts, which is fun. Now, if you apply our pet to all of this, he will also add more statuses, which will be applied to the enemies once again, and yeah, I mean, they just disappear the moment we do something. And since we have 40 meters of range, we don't really need to hide them much. I think this is, yeah, this is fair enough. We cast your abilities, and yeah, they just they do not survive. And even if they do, we have weapons to kill them, so use your weapons. A very fun thing you can do if you have the Furious is applying millions of hit stacks and then detonate them in a second, which is a lot more fun than you think. Actually, let me just do it again with some full HP enemies. So we're gonna spread the enemies, use one to apply millions of stacks of heat, and if you're fast enough you can detonate it, or else they will just die from all the heat stacks. And yeah, that's also fine, that can happen, we don't really care, we just want to kill enemies as fast as possible. So one last time, just for fun, we're gonna use our 4, use our chakram, use our hold 1, and then tap it again, and everything is now dead. It's very strong. And that pretty much concludes today's build. It is very, very powerful, and it is able to clear anything. And since we don't really care about walls and line of sight, we can just run around and be wherever, and the enemies will just keep dying and dying, and they will drop a lot of orbs on the ground that we can then pick up and use them to replenish your energy. You also want to use your Madurai buffs and get those, because it's 40% more power strength and 50% more casting speed, and I think you might need them. That makes you very fast and speedy at casting your abilities, especially your Thermal Thunder, which yeah, it takes quite a lot of time to cast. So yeah, that's the build. This is also going to be the last video for the year for me, so yeah, I will see you in the new year with new builds and new stuff to do, hopefully. I'll see what my mind can cook for you guys. Enjoy the time you spend with your loved ones, and yeah, I will now leave you guys to the showcase where I test this build for 5 minutes in a survival, so you can see how it performs in a more realistic scenario. If you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Have a great rest of the year. There's only like 3 days left, and yeah, bye bye.
You control me. Guilty self-affliction. Prey on me when I'm lonely, but now I'm your willing victim. My friends already